So remember when you were in like elementary school and there was a substitute teacher and they just wheeled out the VCR cart?
Yes.
Or was it DVD?
That
in
means
your age?
that this, no, it was VCR. Yeah. That means that this must be another
random number generator car reviews episode of the Carmudgeon Show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Would you like to look into the camera and tell them what this actually means?
It means that we didn't want to do research, I think, on an episode topic.
We didn't do any homework. We couldn't come up with a topic. Or alternatively, in the case of this, I was in the shower panicking that we had not discussed. The shower is the only time I ever get, like, what was it called? Free mental space or whatever that Gen Y calls it. Uninterrupted brain time or some shit. Anyway, it's the only time I ever get to fucking relax. And I was sitting there going, well, we should probably record a bunch of episodes. We haven't done a random number generator episode in a while. And the audience seems to like them.
I like them. It's fun to revisit some experiences.
Memory lane.
Yep.
Just think, I might say something nice about some car that doesn't deserve it.
Yeah.
Or more likely, something bad about a car that was just fine.
Yes, because you are using it for use cases that, of course, the owners would never do.
No. This is my professional diary of automotive fuckery.
I know, but you're like, oh, the neutral handling on some shitbox hybrid SUV thing.
It wasn't a hybrid. That was an Escalade, and there was
you did it about another something else also. But in any case,
it's important to notice dynamics, even though it may not make it into the print story that I was writing at the time. Anyway, Derek's going to be mean to me on this, the 100-somethingth episode of the Carmudgeon Show.
Part of the Haggerty Podcast Network. Derek is me. I'm Derek Tam-Scott. Jason Cammisa is the
discount Sandler looking moron
over there.
Yep.
And it is brought to you by the Haggerty Drivers Club, which you might consider joining.
If you like unlimited 24/7 guaranteed flatbed roadside assistance for all your classic vehicles, or if you were to like things like unlimited access to Haggerty's valuation tools.
Or an award-winning magazine and the subscription contained therewith.
But don't forget about the special discounts on cool shit from like Grio's Garage and other places and VIP events. There's a link below if you'd like. Otherwise, listen to the little cute jingle, and we'll be back with our laptops and some more coffee.
And a clap.
Hey, don't forget this.
Does it matter?
Do not look at me like that. You're going to laugh. I'm being very serious.
Matter?
Do not forget, this episode is sponsored by Fredestein Tires. See? You forgot. You forgot your line.
I was busy trying to figure out whether it matters, whether it's sponsored or brought to you by. Is there a difference?
I don't know.
Earlier this month, Fredestein Tires hit the Port of LA quite hard with a radwood and gave you the chance to get behind the wheel of a few cars running Fredestein Tires.
You didn't make a wood and hard thing. Didn't make it out of the show? Don't worry, because Fredestein is now offering $140 back.
Up to $140 back. Okay. On a set of 4 tires.
Should I do the whole thing in Dutch or like a Dutch accent? Because Fredestein is Dutch after all. Don't worry.
Is that where the century of European innovation came from?
From Holland.
From Holland?
Yeah.
From the Netherlands?
Yeah, from the Netherlands. Don't worry. Fredestein is now offering up to $140 back on a purchase of 4 tires.
So you can try them out for yourself with performance that pays off.
To learn more, head over to fredestein.com. See?
They're bringing... It's difficult to take you seriously.
Wat? Wat zeg je? Ik kan Nederlands praten.
Okay, they're bringing better performance to the roads with their award-winning tires backed by over a century of European innovation.
Not to mention a partnership with Ital Design, which is also probably a century. Giorgetto Giugiaro's got to be 100 years old. Founded by legendary designer.
I think he was born in like 1926. Maybe that's when Marcello Gandini was born.
But I mean, it's effectively a century of European design as well as...
Actually, he's probably younger than that. How old is Giorgetto Giugiaro? His first design was 1963 with the Gordon Keeble, I think. So he was quite young at the time. He was probably born in the 1940s.
I know.
Yeah, early 40s.
Well,
late 30s, early 40s.
Gandini was 40s because he was 22 when he did the Mura in 64, right?
66.
Is that when he showed it, or is that when
it would debut? The car debuted with no body in October of 65, and it had a body in March of 66.
Okay, so it was after 65 that he did it. Anyway, not to mention a partnership with Ital Design, followed by legendary designer Giorgetto Giugiaro.
Demand a better tire.
Demand
Fredestein. Done. That was quite the sidebar.
I mean, you give us an ad read, we're going to ameliorate
if you think it's improved, or desecrate if you don't think
I
it's
guarantee
improved.
you that everyone who's watched this now knows that Friedestein is Dutch.
Okay.
And they probably think that's actually German or something.
Well, yes, and the pronunciation of the Stein part is consistent.
German would be Friedestein.
Yes.
Dutch is Friedestein.
Okay.
Different R.
Mm-hmm.
And
substantially the same. The EI and the IE rules are the same in Dutch and German.
That's true.
Except for if you're Jewish. The Jewish thing, they will pronounce that Steen, even though it's spelled if it were pronounced in German. Have you not noticed this?
In the U.S.
In the U.S.
Yes.
Yes.
Yeah, because but Rosenstein is, for example.
Yeah, if you were using the German pronunciation.
We get on the craziest tangents.
Okay.
I can't wait for the comments. How the hell does Jason speak Dutch? That'll be there.
Well, I will just clap and that will conclude this, right?
Bye. Here we go.
All right, well, now Jason's ready to go.
Bong rip sound effects. I should go inside.
I thought you were tasting wine.
Is that what wine sounds like?
You're supposed to like do that with it to air to.
Well,
to
let me tell you,
Starbucks
espresso and cream premium espresso beverage does not taste any better if you're doing that. Okay, Jake, if you could please furnish us with a number.
You need an upper limit for me, Jake. I think. Yes. It's 12 something. 1271.
1271.
Perfect. The first number is 1123.
Who's that for? Is that for Jason or for me?
Both do it. Okay. Car number 1123. On December 9th, 2010, I drove a 2010 Jaguar XK Coupe 175. I don't know what that is.
175?
175 edition. Because normally they have like the 550 edition, which is 550 horsepower. Okay. What I wrote, OMFG, I love it. Was it that I forgot how awesome the XK is? Or did they fix a bunch of things that weren't broken? Either way, wow. I think part of the solution is that the annoying touchscreen is no longer the focal point for road rage frustrations. You can just mash the gas and light up the tires anytime you desire. 70 miles an hour in third gear? Ha, no problem. Brilliant 6-speed manual and paddles.
Manual mode.
Yeah. Fabulous steering, perfect suspension, great brakes. Cornering grip and understeer are lower than I'd like, especially with those steamrollers, but that's borderline irrelevant. I can't believe a car this old is still this good. Give me one.
Oh, wow. Jason liked the Jaguar.
I think we can just leave now. I've given a good review to something.
Yeah.
That's wild.
Wow.
I'm going to reposition myself, so I'm speaking to the microphone because I was worried that was a little bit quiet. Okay. What is your 1,123?
What's the two separate numbers for each of us?
Okay. Derek doesn't like duplication.
Well, no. What happens is that if we get a number that's above the upper limit, then you get one when I don't.
Yeah, fair point. Okay. All right.
Derek's number is 661.
661.
5 off of the number of the devil.
661. I know how to count.
661, the number of an Autobahn that connects Frankfurt and Bad Homburg in Germany.
1983 Lamborghini Countach 5000S, white on tan. Oh, this one I remember had a squeaky clutch pedal.
That's what you remember from a Countach?
Yes. Well, I mean, how is it different from any of the other Countaches that I have driven?
Poor thing.
5000S, this is a 2-valve car. I think we were selling this car. It had been beautifully restored, but I don't know why someone would... I mean, I'm sure the original color combination was white on tan, but if you're going to do a white exterior on a Countach, I think the interior color should be some other color than tan, such as black or white or red. But no matter.
Blue?
Blue would also be great. Basically anything
Purple.
but tan, not gray. Not gray
Green.
and not tan. White on green is nice. I've seen it before. Not on a Countach, but anyway.
You can get away with anything on white. White on white works fine too.
Yes, for Countach. That was one of my suggestions. Yeah, I mean, this is a 2-valve carbureted Countach, so it has the right look. It looks like you would want a Countach to look, so it doesn't have US bumpers or anything like that, assuming you want one with the flares. And the 2-valve is the ultimate it's a 4.8 liter, actually. They call it the 5000S. But with side draft carburetors, it delivers kind of the Countach experience without the junk of fuel injection.
Junk. This modern junk of
fuel-injected Countaches are not the ones you want. That's just the way it is.
Speak for yourself.
I am, and everybody else, and their checkbook, because the least valuable Countaches are the injected ones. if you have the, whatever the equivalent.
Same sort of situation with other cars where the CIS muffled the intake noise and they just didn't sound as good.
It just loses. I mean, it's still a Countach, right? It's still going to be pretty exciting, but they are better with Webers.
Okay. Is anything not better with Webers?
I think there's like modern fuel-injected cars that are pretty good being
modern
and fuel-injected and individual throttle-bodied and stuff like that.
Okay. Next number. 778, one off of 777. On May 29th of 2009, I drove a 2009 Jetta Sportwagon 2.0 DSG.
2009. So that's a very early DSG, right? Mm-hmm. So this might have some...
I don't remember any other 2.0 T car having this much trouble putting its power down. Half throttle off the line is more than enough to light them up. Resolute understeer, too. Steering doesn't feel as natural as the A3s, and the brakes feel like absolute shit. That's a technical term. Huge cargo capacity. It swallowed a 52-inch LCD TV in its box. Comfortable seats. New RNS 510 stereo/nav is far too slow to respond to certain inputs, but sound quality is good. No Bluetooth. Ugh. 21.1 miles per gallon overall is good considering my horrible behavior. Wind noise from the front of the Skyroof sunroof. That was indeed 2009. I remember that car. I remember going to Best Buy and having them ask me, what kind of car do you have? I'm like, a Jetta. And they're like, you're not going to fit this TV. This TV is still in existence, by the way. Good to know that I bought it in May of 2009. And they're like, there's no way it's going to fit. And I'm like, it's a fucking Jetta. Like, everything fits in a Jetta. And whoo, it did, to my shock, because I really didn't think it was actually going to fit. So I was going to have to strap it on the roof. Press car, what do I care? JK. Jake, were you working at the press fleet company at that point in 2009? You weren't there yet. Because otherwise, he'd probably remember. Yeah, I remember you broke off the fucking side of the trunk on that. It all had ripped apart from the metal staples that they used. Never mind. Guess not. Okay. Number for 855 for Derek Tam-Scott.
That is like the nomenclature for a Volvo 850 station wagon.
Is
using
it?
You always, the last digit, like if it's a Volvo 240, but it's a station wagon, you call it a 245. So 855.
850 turbo brick.
This is my Mercedes E500.
Oh, I have
the 1994 E500 that I drove for the first time on the 9th of December 2016, the day that I bought the car. And you have comments.
Oh, I have notes on this very car.
This very car.
It's number 2,547 for the record, but you first.
Well, let's see. So I bought this car. This was my second 500e, and I had a 911 at the time, and I decided I wanted another 500e because when I was in Hawaii, my rental car got towed, and my Uber was a W211 to go pick it up from the tow yard, and I saw those lock knobs, and I was like, "Fuck, I need another 500e." That was the actual progression.
The lock knobs
reminded me of my 500e, and it created this sort of whole association of like, oh man, it's time for another 124. So I was out looking for this other car, and then the guy, there was some reason why I didn't buy this other car. It had been an accident or something like that, and he said my friend has one that's much nicer. He'll probably sell it, and I ended up finding this car. Which I then later subsequently discovered what the owner had seen me with my 911 like 5 years earlier in public and said hello to me because of my 911, but it turned out to be the same car. Anyway, I bought it and had it for 5 years, and then I sold it back to the guy that I bought it from.
This was 94, right?
This is the 94.
I'm just making sure that I have the correct E500. Aside from this car's ride quality, 18s instead of 16s. That is your car? Mm-hmm. Okay. Because there are a couple of them there. Oh my God, this thing is a cohesive package. The steering is transcendent, some of the most talkative I've experienced in a decade, and from a box. Engine sounds great, wheezy out the tailpipe on this one with a non-OEM exhaust, and makes power everywhere. Transmission is the weak part. Starts in second, but is so quick into first when you mat it that it costs you nothing until the ASR shuts all the fun down. But if you're constantly fighting for a downshift, like was par for the course in an old school Mercedes land.
Yes.
That frustrates me to no end in the real world, but otherwise, what a machine. Cornering has none of the grace of the 2.316.
Yes.
Feels like the engine alone is responsible for the 1,000 extra pounds. Resolute understeer, and then the brakes incinerate themselves with moderate use. Front also seems slams rather undignifiedly into the bump stops. Again, wheels and also lowering spring pads.
Yes.
But out of the box, this thing is wonderful.
Yeah, that car had spring pads. Stock springs, but slimmer pads. Does that reduce travel?
Yes.
But don't they go between the car and the spring? Shouldn't.
I can't.
Although
do
the
that kind
shocks
of
will
math.
be,
The shocks will be
yes, bottom.
That car is the subject of the video that I did, which is now at 6.2 million views. The world's
People
most perfect
like the
sedan.
500e.
Yeah, that was the shocker, and we never expected that car to do so well. But it looked so beautiful in the studio.
Yeah. RS2 did well too for us, so maybe people like those sort of peripheral Porsche cars.
Well, then the next video I did was the fastest 5-seaters of the 1990, which was a 124 500e RS2 M5 Touring, and that was a drag race episode that only did 870,000 views. So, whoops, oops. All right. Oh well. We thought that was going to be another. We were, I think we were shadow banned on YouTube. I think that was happening. Where sort of you get kicked out of the algorithm for doing things you're not supposed to do that were done on the channel that I live on without my knowledge or consent. But that video should have done millions of views. That was a really cool drag race. Anyway, happens. Right. 2,560, which means on May 28th, May 28th, 2021, I drove a 2021 Hyundai Tucson, 68 miles. Oh my God, this thing has enough styling on the outside for 6 cars. Biggest DRLs ever. 2/3 of a Mustang 3-element taillight, zigs and zags, but the interior is stunning. 3 price classes up, the screens give great contrast, and the center one is beautifully fared into the dash. The cluster TFT stands proud and is almost as well integrated into the design with the optional mother-of-pearl look gauges that are stunning. The door panels are stunning with 5 different materials coming together in harmony. Wow, wow, wow. The driving experience doesn't match, though. It's quick but clunky shifts from the transmission, especially in the switch from EV to ICE mode, so clearly it was a hybrid. Choppy ride, but very good overall handling. Will go neutral. Decent enough infotainment, not quite a Venza in the refinement department, but I cannot believe how compelling this is and how well equipped at $38,000. BMW who? That's pretty high praise for a Tucson.
Not quite a Venza. I don't know what that means.
Well, I had a Venza Limited.
I guess a Venza is good.
It looks like I had a Venza Limited hybrid at the same time. And I just remember that thing being creamy in all the Toyota wonderful ways. That don't appeal to any of our audience, but make mass market consumers froth over their Toyotas.
Okay.
812.
Like the Ferrari.
Or 1,000 years before the War of 1812. This is a 1969 Mercedes-Benz 600 in ivory. I think there's no date here. So this is the first 600 I ever drove, probably. This one belonged to the guy, I forget what his name was. It was like Gainsbourg or something like that, originally owned by the guy who, he had like a horse breeding farm or something like that. And I think that Jack Nicholson experienced this car at some point as well. But anyway, first 600 I ever drove. It is a very incomparable experience to drive a 600 for all of the sort of hydraulic wizardry and stuff like that. And of course, the famous town and country horns. But yeah, these are really sophisticated, special cars that cost as much as a space shuttle to maintain, unfortunately, because of all the like it's $10,000 to get the junction block switch thing for the main hydraulic system for the switch panel thing in the door.
Holy shit!
Because it has hydraulic windows.
How much are the cars worth?
100 to 400, depending on which variant it is.
Okay,
but
so at
the
least
short wheelbases are like $100,000 for a good one.
Wow.
But yeah, hydraulic windows, hydraulic cowl vent, hydraulic sunroof, hydraulic trunk lid.
Which
hydraulic
goes
seats
down.
Yes.
It will actually decapitate you.
Yes, I actually learned about from an owner who had one close on him before. He said it was not something he would choose to repeat.
Really?
Strangely.
I mean, it's scary looking.
Yeah.
Watching those things go down. That's cool. I feel like I thought those cars were all black. Like they should be
Yes.
Black and sinister.
In spirit, they are.
In spirit, they are. Okay. Evil. All right. Next number. 2159. August 23rd. Oh, dear. August 23rd, 2016, 2017 Mazda CX9 front wheel drive. I put 45 miles on it. On
19?
This was 16.
16.
And I drove, it's a 2017 Mazda. This was Motor Trend's SUV of the year. This is quite a long commentary because I was doing my job on this one. The front-wheel drive car lays rubber from 3,000 to the end of its abbreviated first gear. It short shifts by 5,000 RPM. This
500, I hope. Huh? Short shifts by 500.
No, short shifts by 5,000 by the time it gets to 5,000 RPM. By the time it
reaches 5,000.
This is much too much torque for this amount of traction and gearing. The back seat's very nice, blah, 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 blah. This is like 2 paragraphs. Power delivery is somehow very diesel-like. You hit the gas, there's a delay, tires light up, the transmission short shifts with a whole bunch of low-frequency, gritty vibration. And then you continue further. The end result is that the CX9 is a nice car to drive, but it's not without its compromises. And unlike the 6, which slaughters a Malibu and a Camry, the CX9's driving experience isn't orders of magnitude better than the Acadia or Highlander. And for that reason, its idiosyncrasies aren't as easily excused. So it's not a winner in my book. So clearly I did not vote for SUV of the year for the front-wheel drive CX9.
Could be fixed with all-wheel drive.
Also, lots of bitching about the fact that the touchscreen only works when the car stops, rendering it completely useless. I had some.
We still have that complaint about Mazdas.
Apparently, you can override that in some way in the Miata now that it will allow touchscreen. I don't know. People yell at me. I don't know. I haven't found that control yet. But
okay.
I'm in a Miata. I don't care about touchscreen.
Yep, that's the spirit.
Again with the loud backup truck outside. Oop, someone killed him.
429. Okay, 429 is... Actually, there's nothing intrinsically wrong with the car. It was just very difficult to sell. This was a car that I previously bitched about. It's a 1989 Ferrari Mondial T convertible, and it was a car that we had to sell 3 times because the people who buy cheap Ferraris apparently are extremely indecisive and flaky. But I actually quite like Mondials. I prefer it as a coupe. I think that the Mondial T was functionally the replacement of the 308. It's a 4-seat convertible with a mid-engine. There's not a lot of 4-seat mid-engine convertible cars ever.
Workers.
Yes. Can you think of any other mid-engine
Lotus Evora?
4-seat convertibles?
Convertibles? No.
Mid-engine 4-seat. Yeah, it's an interesting package. But actually quite pleasant to drive. Those are really nice, enjoyable cars, but better with the roof. The convertible top is very fiddly. I mean, the fact that they did fit an engine, a folding convertible top that almost disappears, and 4 seats inside of a wheelbase of a car that's small with 2 doors, is relatively small, is impressive. But yeah, just highlighted this past summer how annoying cheap Ferrari buyers are. If you're a cheap Ferrari buyer, don't
call Derek.
Just
don't.
Just be decisive.
Just buy a Volkswagen.
Be decisive, right? It's an old Italian car, and be okay with all that entails. Otherwise, it's not the car for you.
Yeah, so if this is like the type of buyer who's bitching about an interior rattle or something.
This was the guy who decided not to proceed with the purchase of the car because the convertible top was not watertight.
Even though they were not watertight when they were new.
Correct.
Yeah. Well, don't leave your fucking Ferrari out in the rain.
Yes.
And if you can't afford a garage for it, didn't David E? No, it was an Enzo. No, it was a Torre Bugatti. It was a Torre Bugatti. Sorry, hold on. You know, the hard drive is slow at my age. They're one of Bugatti's customers.
Oh, they were difficult to start when cold.
Yes, and he said perhaps you should invest in a heater for your garage. That was such a Bugatti thing to say, such a Frenchman thing to say. Well, if you heated your garage, you would not have these problems at all. Yeah. Again, cheap Bugatti buyers are even worse than cheap Ferrari buyers, apparently.
No such thing. There's no such thing as a cheap Bugatti.
It's all relative.
Cheap is a mindset, not a price point.
172. I have 2172, which is a 360 Modena. And then I have 1172, which is a 2011 Dodge Durango Hemi. Oh my God. And I have a million I'm sorry. Okay, 172. Wow. Oh my God. I remember this car. I think we might have called this number once. February 1st, 2007, I drove for 15 miles, a 2007 Dodge Nitro.
Oh, you have. This one was quite scathing, I think.
Yes. Are they fucking kidding? Sounds so weird. I had to open the hood to find out what it was. It sounds
just a
awful.
4-cylinder.
No, it was a 4-liter V6. But I remember driving the car thinking, I wonder if this is a 5-cylinder or a 7-cylinder that's in a V, but the two banks of cylinders are joined at the cam. Like it's got two cranks. It sounded so terrible. It sounds terrible. Transmission's harsh. Won't roll in 4-wheel drive mode. In 2-wheel drive mode, it spins the rears endlessly. Cloth on seats could shave your legs in the summer. Fog's light where the headlights should. Headlights where the high beam should, and the highs where the sky is. Suspension bottoms easily on jounce, too soft. So steering has no feel whatsoever. Driving position is weird. A true truck in every conceivable bad way. Yuck. And the thing is, I loved the way that Nitro looked.
Yeah.
I thought it was a great looking, like, little butch, like, Jeeplet thing. And drove like a garbage truck.
But worse.
It smelled worse, probably, too. Okay.
117. See, my list is alphabetized. I don't even remember this car.
That's not good.
It was a 2000 Audi S4 sedan, silver Tiptronic. Oh, one of my friends from high school owned this car. I don't remember it, but I do remember that it existed.
I will say for my 117, just out of curiosity, was an 07 Mercedes E63 AMG wagon. I don't remember this.
07,
but I said awesome sound acceleration and composure, hot as hell looks. Tranny occasionally gets confused, could use bigger wheels visually. Backseat is completely and totally uninhabitable by human beings.
That's the third row.
Third row must be, yeah.
Do those cars have third rows? I know E55s did, but I don't know if E63s
I mean, I can't imagine saying an E63 wagon doesn't have a habitable back seat. I don't know. Maybe I was drunk, which would be extra surprising because I don't drink.
That would be surprising.
2124.
What? All of these 2000s. Okay. July. Is this actually a random number generator? Or you're just like, picking. This random number generator keeps picking cars from like 2016. This is in July 17th, 2016. I put 30 miles on a 2017 Jaguar F-Type Coupe SVR. On the road, if you could look past the obscene turn-in behavior, you'd find flashes of brilliance. So I'm glad we looked more closely at the rear end and found a broken toe link. Oh, this car was undrivable. This was scary as shit. One direction, you'd turn in and it would just explode sideways. And we were on Highway 198, which is the Motor Trend Performance Car of the Year road. And there's like 1.5 billion foot drop off on the one side. And the car was just unhinged. And we looked underneath and there was just a disconnected toe link. This is easily the best F-Type yet on both road and track. It finally got trustworthy and fast in equal measures, putting its power down well without first scaring you with a rear-end twitch a la previous all-wheel drive F-Types. The engine is brutal, though this particular 8-speed seems slow and deliberate in shifts. To Jaguar's credit, they actually took the car away overnight to a dealership, fixed it, and brought it back for the track day, which is pretty cool. But that's all I have to say. Survive. That's all I have to say about that F-Type Coupe, which is still in production.
Is it?
Yeah. Oh. I think it's now just at the end of the run. And it's got to be, F-Type. This is the only F-Type V8. Oh, 2013 is when I drove the first one. It doesn't matter how it drives. Look at it and listen to it is what I said in 2013. So yeah, that's 11 years ago. Wow. Old car.
68.
Number 68.
1991 Alfa Romeo 164S Red. It is one of 3 1991 164S Reds that I drove. This is the one that I test drove when was considering buying when I was in college, but could not afford it. I could afford to buy it, but probably not to do anything else to it. I remember that it got very hot and it smelled funny and the air conditioning didn't work, which is par for the course for an Alfa Romeo 164S.
I was going to say, so you bought it and loved it.
I did not buy this one. I bought one of the 3 that I have driven.
Okay.
You still need one of those? You do.
I would like to have a 164 to film with.
Yep.
Funny, my 68 is a 2007 Subaru B9 Tribeca. You remember that thing?
Yes. Quite a strange looker in the front.
Yes. Ridiculous third row seats. Don't remember the driving position being this awful. The wheel is so far away you can barely reach it. Incredibly smooth engine and almost imperceptible shifts, but it smells funny like the other one, and it's an SUV. What's to love? You smell funny and you're in a sport ute. That was our automobile long-termer, if I remember correctly. All right, next one. 816. Oh, God. Oh, no, hold on. That's 2816. 816. 2009 Mazda RX8 R3 on an autocross with a whole bunch of other cars on an autocross. I don't know what the hell I was doing. Track and autocross. Anyway, autocross. Scalpel. So quick to turn, so well planted. Will settle into understeer that you can't fix without slowing down, but otherwise fantastic balance. The chassis can handle so much more torque, but this is a Mark Nordalus type of car. Mark Nordalus was our road test coordinator at Automobile. He was a very delicate driver. Light steering, great response, good balance. It rewards smooth, momentum-focused drivers, and the brakes feel about 100 times more powerful than the Miatas. When I say delicate driver, he's just sort of very light control input, very smooth, very fast, sort of held the wheel with two fingers and never, the type of person who just wouldn't have a flinch reflex if he hit a dump truck. Just sort of, slide around it. Great driver. Good guy.
Mm-hmm. Mine is a 300 SL Gullwing.
Of course it is.
Silver with blue plaid with Rudge wheels. I remember this car. I drove it on my birthday in 2015. That was a good birthday present.
That was seriously. I was going to say, any Gullwing drive is a good birthday present.
551.
551 for Derek.
Let's see. 2020 Shelby GT500 Blue. This was on the Icon
GT500
shoot.
blue?
Blue. It was blue in color.
It was a blue car, yes.
Yes. It was on the Icon shoot in the first Icons that you made.
The first one you ripped your shirt off on.
The first ever Icons, actually, because it didn't have a name. Oh,
no,
the Stratos was
M18
the first.
Stratos was the first one. This is the second ECME Icons.
I drove it around part of Chuckwalla backwards. The track backwards, not the car backwards.
I was in reverse the whole time and I set a lap record.
On the 9th of December 2019. It had a lot of horsepower. My brother subsequently bought one of these.
760?
Yeah,
horsepower.
Enough. Yeah, supercharged horsepower. So it came with a lot of torque as well.
That GT500 was magic.
Yeah.
That car is dynamically bang on.
Yeah, just too much for road use.
Yeah. I wish it had a manual.
Yeah, of course.
But on the other hand, that dual clutch worked the car worked so well that I can't fault it. Oh well. 390. Ooh. I got a speeding ticket in this car. October 9th of 2007 Porsche 911 GT3 RS. Put 255 miles on it. Okay, so the Kermy green paint and spoiler got me a ticket. But I can't help adoring this car. It's definitely not for the street, but it does a remarkable job at being comfortable on the highway. Motor vibrates like mad between 2,800 and 3,200, or 80 to 90 miles an hour on 6th. But it's surprisingly quiet, being that it has no sound deadening. Please, can I have one for the track? Please, please. That GT3 RS, so I was driving that back that was Automobile of the Year, I think. And I was driving it through Ohio, and I got pulled over for doing 64 in a 55. And the cop pulls me over, and it just started to rain, and I was trying to beat the rain back to Ann Arbor. I was like probably an hour from the office. And the guy had me, because it started to pour, come in his cop car and sit down and talk to him. We sat and talked about cars for like an hour. Super cool guy. And then he's like, okay, I need to get back to work. And I'm thinking, okay, he's going to let me go, right? He fucking pulls out his pad. And I'm like, you're not actually writing me a fucking ticket for 64 and a 55. He's like, why wouldn't I? I'm like, I assume after an hour of hanging out, you were going to tell me that you only pulled me over because you wanted to talk about the car. He's like, oh, I did, but you're getting a ticket. And I'm like, why? And he's like, I'm not going back to the office and saying I had Jason Cammisa in the car and didn't give him a ticket. You putz. So anyway, That sucked.
Okay.
But he did actually pull me over because he wanted to talk about the car and then give me a fucking... Who gets a ticket for 64 and a 55? That's not even legal in some states.
Is it?
You have to be 10 over on a numbered road in Pennsylvania, for example.
Pennsylvania sounds all right.
Also, you can't use radar within any city or town limits in Pennsylvania. That's why they have LiDAR, VASCAR stripes all over the road.
What is VASCAR?
That is that you time it, like 2 lines on the road. Anyway.
Mine was a 246 Dino. A red one, though. Bitch. Red's not good.
Is there ever going to be a time in which you don't outrank me?
Yeah, I mean, if there's a number that's so high that...
Okay. 1031.
1031, sorry. Do you want to go first?
I know this was 2010 Ford Raptor. Great noise, lots of power, but concentrated at high revs. Lazy, confused, and recalcitrant transmission with 2 long gears means you're always fighting to get out of its way. It's always fighting to get out of its way, which it does very quickly when prodded. Horrendous structural rigidity. Speed bumps are downright horrifying. Huge brake dive, but great handling on bumpy roads and impressively high grip levels. Looks menacing and butch, especially from the front. Transmission also miscalibrated on light throttle 1 to 2 shifts. It easily ruins the car. This was the first Raptor, the NA-V8, and I remember pulling over on the side of the road to have a job interview at Tesla on my way to Monterey Car Week. And this is when they were looking for a corporate PR person. And they called me and they were like, hey, we've seen some of your Cammisa takedowns on the internet where like somebody would say something that was just factually wrong, and they would just beat me up on a review, and I would just go in and just systematically
demolish.
That's a strong word. Decimate their personality, their person. And they were like, we just need somebody to do this. And I'm like, you think you can pay me enough to defend Elon in his craziness? No. So there we go. All the way back to 2010. I thought Elon was crazy. Anyway.
1031 for me is a 1973 Porsche Carrera RS, white with red stripes, on the 16th of April, 2014. I don't actually specifically remember this car, but there's like 9 other Carrera RSs here. I
you
remember most
son of a bitch.
They're all different colors, actually. It's the only white with red one that I have ever.
Well, congratulations on that.
This one I think was a good one, because I'm looking at some of these other ones and I remember them being not very good. But this was a really good one.
Fair enough. Okay. I love how this coffee has now put me to sleep.
It's working well.
This episode of the Carmudgeon Show is sponsored by not Starbucks. Anyway. 1776. It was a good year. Because
the year of the founding
of the United States. June 18th, 2024, I put 601 miles on a 2015 Cadillac Escalade. Don't remember what this was. Sorry to see that the miserable fit and finish wasn't due to the pre-production car. Man, this interior is bad, with ill-fitting trim, rattling door locks, and a center console that won't stay lit. Nothing lines up. Nothing. Q is just plain fucking dangerous. That was their infotainment system. And it needs to be outlawed by NHTSA. Engine is impressively powerful in V4 mode. It can cruise at 78 miles an hour on only 4 cylinders, though you can hear the exhaust note change if you listen very closely. Transmission/throttle mapping is way too EPA friendly. Tow haul mode fixes that. Brutal power and lots of it, incredible suspension composure in the corners, and admirably neutral, which is a ridiculous statement for a vehicle like this. Ladder frame does vibrate a lot, but this is a seriously quiet vehicle on the highway. LED lighting is okay. Nice beam pattern, but not stronger than HIDs. Rear seats are no longer removable, just fold via power and take up a lot of room. More convenient, but the cargo room just isn't big enough. Rear wiper integration deserves a Nobel Peace Prize. No, seriously. Big brash, but not as brash as before. Decent stereo with lots of muddy bass. Brakes feel great. It's great. One enormous interior upgrade from being a brilliant vehicle, compromised though she is. Indicated 17 miles per gallon on mostly highway trip. That was at home. I don't know where I went in it because, maybe camping. Because, when was this? June 18th, that one went camping because right before I had a Cayenne diesel that I drove the shit out of too. So I put on 1,000 miles on press cars in a week and a half. Anyway, So who knew?
358 is 348, 358. 1967 Ferrari 330 GTC light blue metallic. This is, I think, one of the record holders for the most expensive 330 GTCs ever sold. This car was a black plate car that was with its third California owner. It had service records back to new, including the invoice for its first oil change in Palo Alto, California, at like 600 miles or something like that. Wow. But just like an absolutely stellar car that we sold to a guy who, I probably shouldn't reveal that. He makes a packaging item that everybody recognizes.
Okay. I have to say, when I typed in 358, 358 is 07 VW GTI 2-liter DSG 4-door, which was our long-term car at Automobile, so Mark 5. But also 1358 is Dodge Dart, which was on the launch of the Dodge Dart. And all I'm going to say is, holy shit, what a really big surprise. To which I then probably have a comment many years later or many months later when I drove the production version. Holy shit, we've been duped, because the pre-pro cars were nothing like the production cars. Fuck you, Sergio Marchionne. May you be spinning in your grave. Don't ever pull it. He pulled a move where they fully decontented all the cars between the press launch and production start. And he pulled a move on his PR teams. So they thought this was the real car. And then when they started showing up, I guess it was FCA, whatever the name of the company was at the time, all the PR people were like, oh, fuck. Because the cars were nothing like the launch cars. I drove 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 1.4T, 1.4 Rally, 1.4 Limited, SXT 2-liter. And yeah, I drove all these different cars and they were amazing. They were amazing. Oh, well.
And they never existed. They weren't real.
They were shit when they made different shocks, springs, steering gear. I mean, different suspension bushings, interior materials. They pulled quite a move on us on that. Oh, well. Okay.
115.
Like actual 115? That's early. November 13th, 2006. I drove a 2007 Ford Focus SES. 5 miles. Upshift indicator doubles as a shift light. Handy since there's no red line on the tack. Oh, it lit up at the red line. Fun and cute, but definitely at least one step behind the Rabbit and Civic in every way, and for the same price. Would be a bargain at $13K, not at $19. Think about that in 2006.
When you used to be able to buy cars for those kinds of numbers that weren't Mitsubishi Mirages or Nissan Versas.
What does a Mitsubishi Mirage cost?
I would guess 18, 17.
16, $695. Wow. Well, plus. So it's $18,250. But still. Anyway.
There's so many things I would rather do with that kind of money.
Yeah.
Like put it in a pile in my driveway and set it on fire.
I would rather have the Mirage so that I could sell it for half of what it's worth rather than the ashes of that money, which would be 0% of it.
Fine. Okay. You talked me into it.
Okay. Good. No arson. 584 for Derek.
1953 Jaguar XK120 open 2-seater British Racing Green. It's one of 3 British Racing Green XK120 roadsters I've driven. So I don't specifically remember this one.
You're turning into, what politician was that? Was it Clinton?
I do not recall. Having sexual relations with that woman. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
There's a lot of
someone trained him on that.
Yes.
These cars are getting super cheap now. I find them actually quite charming. I really like XK120s, but everybody who cares is, decomposing. So that's a shame. But they're getting cheap. I noticed a pretty decent one sell for $70,000 recently, and they used to be like $125,000. So that's a big change in the market.
A huge change.
If you are interested in having a drum brake experience, then I recommend these cars unreservedly. I like them a lot.
Okay. I mean, for the record, my 584 was a 2009 Ford Escape Limited V6.
Also 6 cylinders.
Also 6 cylinders.
But no drum brakes.
No drum brakes. My comment was, I love how only an American car company can pull 40 horsepower out of their hats on an engine without any serious mods. Apparently, for 2009, the Ford Escape Limited V6 got 40 extra horsepower.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, well, with the new 6-speed, this thing is a lot faster than the old one. I love the interior upgrades, and the suspension updates give a better ride than the 2008 I rode in afterward. The engine is a little whiny, but that's not out of this world. Who knew? Escape Limited V6 for 2009 was such a good car.
Probably better than the 120. Although the 120 did have twin cam engine in 1948. That was a pretty big deal.
And I bet they didn't pull out 40 more horsepower that year.
No, not in 19. Well, went from 0 because it didn't exist before to 160 horsepower. They pulled out 160 horsepower.
4 times the gain.
Yeah. Well, there you go.
There you go.
An XK120 is 4 times as impressive as a Ford Escape V6 Limited.
V6, yeah.
1108.
1118.
1108, right?
Oh, 1108. Good, because it was going to be another Volkswagen. Oh, here we go. This was a fun one. In November 3rd of 2010, I drove a 2011 Nissan Juke all-wheel drive, 105 miles. Kind of cute.
What?
But also kind of a piece.
Kind of cute. A Juke? I think it's hideous.
I thought they were kind of cute.
Really? I think it's one of the ugliest cars ever produced.
I mean, remember Stewie the puppy in the Alpha SC episode who was so cute he was ugly?
Okay.
Same thing.
It wasn't boring, at least.
But this gets so much better. Kind of cute, but also kind of a piece. Dashboard rattles. Water leaks into the driver's footwell. But it's quick with a nice sounding 1.6 liter. CVT does some funky stuff. More torque steer than I'd hoped for with all-wheel drive, but it's so much better to drive than a Versa or a Cube. Fits 4 guys okay. Ride is busy, but body control is excellent. A cool car for those who want something totally different. Okay stereo, weak high beams, relatively fadeable brakes. Coolest HVAC/D mode buttons ever.
Driving mode?
Maybe driving mode. Why would I call it D mode? Oh, yes. If I remember correctly, it had a button that changed from HVAC to D, like it was a hidden thing. Anyway, well equipped and at $23,810. Not a bad value. I'd rather have a GTI, of course, but that's personal preference. Cool digs.
They cost the same as a GTI? Oh.
Remember when GTIs were $23,000 and
No.
not $35,000?
Yes, actually, yeah. For what was the Autobahn was the low? No, Autobahn was a high trim.
High trim.
What was the base? S.
S.
Yeah. Yeah.
S, SE, SEL, and then Autobahn.
Yeah. Mine 1108 was an automatic Porsche 928 GTS.
Ugh.
Yeah.
Well, I guess the GTS but
that's the 5.4 liter.
Ruined by the automatic?
A lot of people say that those cars are okay as automatics in the same way that you say the Mercedes is okay as an automatic. Those
With
cars,
the Mercedes SL, like a 129 SL?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, it's the same transmission. It's a Mercedes transmission that the Porsche uses and puts it in the back as a transaxle, which is kind of goofy. I prefer those cars as manuals. I like them as manuals, especially with a short final drive. But, if you're going to kind of use it as a GT, I guess it's okay. The only thing is those cars ride very firmly. It rides like a Porsche. So it's a very GT experience, except for the ride quality. And so I'm like, if it's going to ride like this, then you may as well manual and sort of try and do Porsche stuff in it, which you can.
I think I can handle a Mercedes SL with an automatic far more philosophically than I can deal with a automatic Porsche.
I agree. Especially slush box.
Yeah.
Like a real slush box.
Yeah, without a lock-up torque converter. Okay. 370. In 2007, I drove an 08 Mercedes SL 550, 10 miles. I've forgotten how good the SL is. The engine sounds a little weird, vacuum much, but the tranny is smooth and fast, and the whole car feels rock solid. It's no wonder why this thing still sells so well despite being 200 years old. I mean, that was accurate.
Yeah.
2008 was the end of 230? Had to be.
No, they facelifted it. Sorry, what model was it?
2008 SL 550.
Yeah, they facelifted it, and that car ran until 2013, I think. 12? I think it was 2012.
R230 SL 2001 until December of 2011.
Yeah.
Oof.
Yeah. Mine is the very first Ferrari I ever drove. It was a 1971 Daytona that we sold to Adam Levine.
No shit.
Yeah.
Wow.
But that was not when he bought it. He bought it later. This was when we sold it to the owner before him.
Still never driven a Daytona. I would like to.
It's not my favorite vintage Ferrari driving experience.
Really?
I don't dislike it, but it's not my favorite one. There's definitely other vintage Ferraris that I prefer to drive more. Like, I think I'd rather drive a 330 GTC than a Daytona. And the one I'd really rather drive, actually, is the Quasette, the 365 GT4 2+2, or the predecessor, which is
Are they not
GTC4.
Similar to the Daytona?
The Daytona, you sit right on the back axle, and the seat is a fixed recline, and you're sort of leaning back, and they don't have power steering, so the steering's very heavy, and you're kind of leaned way back in a way that's a little uncomfortable. They're not unpleasant. You got to manhandle those cars. If you are tentative with those cars, they will call you out and sort of be uncooperative. But if you really take it by the scruff of its neck, then it can be fun. But it's not a sort of novice or friendly, approachable car. It's a car that really demands like sureness of what you're doing. I don't think it's a very good first Ferrari to drive, which is what it was for me.
Interesting.
But yeah, they're very fast and they are charming. But it doesn't. I don't know. It's definitely a bang, not a marry. It's not a kill. It's a bang.
It's a bang.
Yeah.
That Quasette I loved.
Yeah.
I thought it was great. So I just assumed it was the same experience. The
Quasette's more of a fingertips car, and it sounds better because it has side drafts instead of downdraft carburetors.
Okay. 536. That was 4/24 of 2008. I drove a 2008 BMW M3 Coupe. And that same day, I drove an M3 convertible with MDCT and an M3 Coupe with MDCT and an Audi A5 and an R8 Tiptronic or R-Tronic and, oh my God, RS4 cab and a 135i and a CTS FE3 and a Cobalt SS Turbo, Chevy HHR SS, Viper SRT10, Mustang Bullet, Accent 3-door, Jaguar XK. What in the fuck? Mustang Roush, Acura TX. It had to be Waj Media Days. So, oh my God, it was a total 423. Hold on, let me just count these. Oops. I think I drove 20 cars that day and took notes on all of them. Oh my God.
Why did you give so many shits? It's because you were...
This must have been a media day, so this was when I was just banging through cars to get through them. I drove a total of 40 cars in 2 days.
Ugh.
That's nuts. Okay, so number 536 was an M3 Coupe on track. This would be a Laguna Seca. Awesome, precise, but too light steering. Everything else is fantastic. Brakes held up just fine, surprisingly. It's very heavy and feels it, but it's really fast, really capable, and a real driver's car, especially without previous M3s here to compare it to. Had to throw in that little last dig. Like E90 is perfect.
Good. E90s are the last good M3.
They were good until the competition came out. Once the compact came out, they were fantastic. Mm-hmm. But I always thought the E90 M3 was the best M5 BMW had ever made.
Big. Too heavy.
But I do think it is peak M5, even though it's called M3. What's your 536?
It was the 1990 Ford Mustang in black that we drove on the Icon shoot that you so enjoyed. It was really a lot of experience. And had a little bit of cantankerousness that I like in old cars. It was really a charming piece. But yes, maybe not the best dynamic piece of equipment, but that's fine.
Also, the headliner was like dropping spider eggs on my head. It was a little bit crusty.
Yeah.
But charming. Mm-hmm. Okay, one or two more?
944.
Oh, 944. Wouldn't that be cool if 944 was a Porsche 944?
My numbers always change because my list is alphabetized, not sequential like yours.
Oh. This one's for you, right?
1956 Porsche Speedster Aquamarine on red with a hard top. Hard tops are pretty rare on Speedsters. I think they make the cars look super, super cool. Although the soft top went up, you kind of, because the windows are so letterboxy, you can't really see the face of the driver when you're driving the car with a convertible top up, because the driver's head is inside of the top, basically. But this is a really cool color combination. The aquamarine on red is, I think, maybe the best combination. I remember we sold this car in the spring of 2019. Was a very just happy driving car that had some kind of something, a metal on the dashboard or something like that, from something that the car had done early in its history, which is typical for very vintage cars. But yeah, good 356 Speedster. Lots of fun.
This is a car that I drove on a day, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19. This is another day that I drove 19 cars on track, including a Rolls Ghost and a Suzuki Kazashi. But my number 944 was a 2010 Cadillac CTSV. Really, really good, well balanced, but the transition to oversteer is quite prompt with the application of power. Very fast. Brake feels a bit wooden. I don't think I drove the Ghost on track. I drove the same day. There's a 20% parts content share with the F01 7 Series is very obvious, and the driving experience doesn't mask that. Interesting. Okay.
Last one?
Yep.
517.
517. That is March 1st, 2013. I drove a 2013 Audi A7 3.0 T Quattro. 120 miles. There is no need for the V8. This thing is a rocket. Strangish seating position, say that 3 times, which I'd never noticed before, and visibility to the rear isn't abundant. Ride is just right. Steering is just accurate enough. 8 HP transmission, the ZF, is just perfect. And that 3.0 T is a gem of V6 even by my harsh standards. I hate that the stereo turns itself on always, but I mostly love everything else about this car.
High praise for an Audi.
High praise for an Audi. I mean, Audi's dynamics are never or almost never done properly, but as a sort of luxury thing to get in and out of, they're lovely cars very often.
My 517 has to be one of the very last brand new Fiat 500 Abarths available. It was May 7th, 2017. I drove a gray Abarth at the dealer because my mom was thinking of buying one and did subsequently do so.
I also just realized I lied. That was 1,517. 517 was actually an 08 Suzuki Grand Vitara, which I say a shocking value for $22,000. Keyless go, sunroof, climate control, auto lights, ESP, V6, 5-speed auto. Wow. No all-wheel drive, though, which is strange. Competent driver with ESP, that's a little strange, sometimes intervening in a straight line. Rapid, really abrupt involvement in corners. Transmission will neutral drop, which is also strange. And the V6 has some weird resonances to it. But this little SUV is fabulously well-equipped, looks adorable, and drives great. The only visible cheapness is that the otherwise very nice steering wheel controls don't illuminate. What a pleasant surprise, and what a lovely little car. That's right, you heard it here. The 2008 Suzuki Grand Vitara is a lovely little car.
Well, everybody go out and rush and buy the one that's left.
I'm going to look at the previous day's entry because clearly I must have gotten very laid that night to be in that good of a mood to be Lincoln MKX. Nope, definitely did not get laid that day. This is always fun. I like this. Trip down memory lane. It's amazing how much the human brain remembers. Like these are individual experiences that you had. I mean, this is what we have 2,000 or 3,000 cars that we've each driven. And other than your few Bill Clinton moments, you mostly remember them. And I mostly remember these guys.
I mean, I've driven multiple examples of the same car, so they sort of run together.
Yeah.
So sometimes you don't remember what a white one with red stripes did differently than a white one with blue stripes. But
still, you remember the car. I mean,
yes.
It's pretty amazing. I read through some of these notes and I have memory structures associated with this. I remember being here. I remember being there.
And then every so often you have literally not a single flicker of recollection associated with this
remember
car.
the last time we did one of these episodes, there was a car that I didn't even remember existed. It was a Suzuki something, and we're like, what's that?
Yeah.
Like, genuinely, what is this car? We had to look it up, which is
very appropriate for a Suzuki in the U.S.
Might have not even been a Suzuki. I don't remember what it was. But it was, something sort of SUV-ish and or as a pickup truck.
Yes, it was a pickup truck.
Do you remember what it was?
No.
Neither do
I have already discarded the information.
Exactly. However, don't forget that white with blue stripe Carrera 27 RS because, you're only going to drive 200 more of those in your lifetime.
I hope so. That would be the dream.
All right. Well, that was another fun random number generator episode. Hope you enjoyed it.
Thank you for joining us.
Well.
We'll see you next week, almost probably.
Almost probably.
Almost probably.
Yeah,
that's right.
That's way to overpromise.